Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk.
Hello, everyone. Actually, I'm Roger Chen from the University of San Francisco and also the Center for Business Studies and Innovation in Asia Pacific, and short for USF CBSI Asia Pacific. So, Alfred, would you please, first of all, I want to thank you for supporting us to join this program. And would you please briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you, Roger. Thank you for inviting me. And this is my honor, and really it's a privilege to be here today. And thanks, Heister, and thanks, Ty, to actually have me speak today. I think the last time I actually spoke at a Heister event was maybe 22 years ago, which Heister was just founded. I think I went to a dinner in Cupertino, and I spoke at the dinner. It was very well attended, and so I have extremely fond memories, and it's been a long time, and so thankful to be back. So I was born in Hong Kong, and I was graduated from the University of San Francisco with a computer science degree. And then I went to UC Davis for my graduate studies. And then I got my master's degree from them. And then halfway through my PhD program, I quit and I went to work for Sun. I was at Sun for about just under 9 years. And I founded my own company called BEA Systems. BEA was a very successful venture. So we went public in 4 years and pivoted the company into the web space in the late 90s and reached $58 billion market cap, and eventually got to just under $2 billion in revenue and sold to Oracle for $9 billion, just under $9 billion during the financial crisis. And then I've done other companies and been very active in investing in the early stage company for the past decade plus. And so about 5 years ago, I started a firm with two other partners focusing on seed stage investment in infrastructure technology. So that's what I've been very focused on in the past few years. I'm having a grand time. This is like 2000 all over again for this AI era. So very thankful to be here. Yeah.
AI and opportunities in business process software.
So think about, let's say I'm hypothetically, if you look at, I'm building a new superscalar center. So the first thing you have to do is to say, okay, how do we recycle compute, right? So how do we share? So we have done some tenancy type, sharing technology when we move things to cloud. So that actually has helped us. But if you look at the open capacity planning in cloud, because we're always afraid there's a crunch and we don't have those capacity available, because we just don't have the technology to be able to predict, right? Predict is the hardest historically. So what were we doing to try to predict? Over time, we were using old school machine learning, rules-based. Finally, we have a very, very smart thing that constantly are mutating and talking to each one of the agents. So you can put agents on each one of the operating system, on each one of the machine inside the data center. So you will know, well, how do I reduce that overcapacity to a point where now you're really seeing energy efficiency? The other thing is timing, right? So some of the things, not all the things you have to do at the same time, but nobody wants to wait. So sometimes we're wasteful, very wasteful. We're in a very wasteful world. How do we reduce the wastefulness has to be driven also now by very smart scheduling. We can almost understand, think about how operating system is written. It's a contiguous code. There's no smartness in there. So it knows how to operate all the devices, the CPU and all the things it's hooked up to. But it doesn't really think. Now we have a thinking machine inside. This is obviously software we have to invent, but it hasn't been invented yet. But I think we will get there. So we have software that's so smart, it really literally understands to say, well, now if we do this one other thing, instead of doing it now versus doing it, we can punt it, for maybe 20 minutes, we can have saved the earth this much. There's no such parameters, right? If we know the parameters how to measure, we'll be able to save it. That's kind of, I see where the world's moving to. And I've seen work now in deep level code that people are starting to do these kind of things because of costs. Soon, I think cost will be equated to the damage that we do. And I think this will be slowly, we'll be ratcheting towards this direction. And then, by the way, the government will have to step in the mandate. Some of this have to be for regulation to say, if this is this wasteful. So far, nobody is stopping it yet, right? You look at people building these huge superscalar centers in Texas and other places. No one's going in and say, you can only use this much energy because it's such an advanced thing that is driving so much new money. Nobody's stopping anything. At some point in time, they will have to step in and say, come on, okay? So how can you optimize? And they'll have to regulate it. This is something they will have to do. So I'm going to share a little bit of our secret sauce today. So I look at the world, there are two main vertical stack that you can invest in today's world, okay? It's evolving towards the process part. One, obviously, on the training side, right? So we almost don't touch anything on the training side other than very high on the stack. On the training side, you have very expensive ASICs, or soon it's going to be kind of these kind of training kind of cloud. And then you have businesses like OpenAI that they're training very large set of parameters into the model itself, and are providing specific products on top, whether it's video-based or it's voice-based or it's text-based. And then people will imagine other type of applications that would be sitting on top. So eventually, process application will be sitting on top of that too. The problem that I think I struggle with that is, this is a stack that's very difficult to make direct revenue out of. Who is actually occupying that space? It's OpenAI, but OpenAI is 49% owned by Microsoft, right? And 75% of the future profit is going to go to Microsoft. So you kind of have to think they and Microsoft is kind of one of the same in that case. And I think Satya has made it very, very clear. They said this is their opportunity to give Google an extremely tough time because they don't have any advertisement revenue, right? So they've thrown the kitchen sink at it. How would they actually monetize this? It's easy for them. They'll put the neural network into Windows, and they already said they're going to do that, right? And soon we will have local training chips and inference chip on the computer itself. They will put it obviously into Microsoft Office, right? And the rest of the Microsoft Teams. And that will make perfect sense. I mean, it's already happening. You will see agents and you will see AI assistants into almost everything that we do, and as we are creating presentations or writing a document, all that kind of stuff. That's how they will monetize. Very hard for, I think, outside companies without these kind of monopolistic position to try to monetize anything. The much more interesting thing, I think, is really for the rest of the world to invest in. This is kind of like early days. It's inference. So one thing is to train the model. The much more interesting thing is to be able to fetch, and this will be like creating the sensation as if we're thinking like human. So we derive and instantly give you an answer, except it's a very, very fast human, right? It may not be smarter than a human, but very fast. So on the inference stack, so everyone's rushing into that space. This will be cheaper, number one. Number two, now you can now have direct, impactful revenue generated from every piece of software sitting on top. One will be the operations of these inferences stack itself, right? How do you serve the model, for example? Security, how do you authorize who, can go to which fetch itself, right? The whole traditional OAuth, all that kind of stuff, now will have to be reinvented for this. We have no development tool. So generally, when somebody develops an applications, they think right now mostly we think of a form, right? So we start with a form, we put fields, and then we put interaction of the forms. That's how our application gets done. In the future, it won't be the case. So we need those configurations and those tools to be available. And then all of the management tools. Those are all the things that have to be done, right? And we now accepted one thing, which is very interesting. For the past, I would say, since the late 2000s, we've been focused on everything moving onto the cloud. What's the thing that I hear the most lately? Things are moving back to be on-prem because they don't know, there's no way to protect the data, right? Data is the new gold, right? Data is the new oil. So the banks, the telcos are not willing to take the risk, those training data, getting out to anybody. So they're bringing back the data center competency. So now on-prem software is back in vogue. So now we need data center operations and also on-prem software expertise. That's another opportunity. So I think the inference stack is the most interesting. And then ultimately will be all those AI-enabled applications. So if you ask me, without a doubt, we will see a new Salesforce.com. Whether Salesforce.com themselves will reinvent themselves or somebody will reinvent them, it's coming. I think this time around, for sure, we will see a new SAP. I think it's been almost 50 years people waiting to see a new SAP. Once you set the bill of material inside SAP, you're not movable. We will see flexibility in the future. And the Workday and everything else that we have historically see on that level, we'll see a whole different types of application. So the next 10 years is going to be a free-for-all of development, I think. But I'm going to focus on the inference stack.
It seems like you portrayed a doomsday for SAP and sales. Have you talked to these people, and what's their response to your thesis?
I think they are very well aware, right? I mean, like, I think we have kind of two general reactions in the world, right? One will be overreactions. We think AGI is imminent, so there are people pushing the choir and say human existence may be in jeopardy because AI is going to be smarter than the human. I actually don't believe that. Okay, based on what I actually am looking at, is like nothing is actually smarter than human. It's definitely fast, right? It definitely has very good memory. As I age, I envy how when you have if the AI can actually train every information that I have on my hand, all my old email, all of my old Slack, all of my old Discord, all of my old Telegram, all of my old Signal and iMessage. It certainly will remember things better than I do, right? All the files I have. But I don't think, I hope, okay, and I honestly don't believe that AI will be smarter than human anytime soon. However, it's without a doubt, the impact of how AI will be helping us to do mundane tasks and mutating the way that we do a task because we have to do mundane tasks now. In the future, we don't. That's exciting. And you can assume the application will be written so long ago, even a new one, even Salesforce is over 20 years old. They're all form-based. So in a new world order, this is all going to be new. So there's a chance that they've been investing in AI for a long time. They're probably the most likely candidate to have a shot in kind of reinventing themselves. The really old company will have a much harder time.
Thank you for watching.